went to sleep, they didn't see the hollow man walking among them empty, not because he had nothing to give, but because he had already given it all to them, and they took it all with open hands and closed hearts. They left when he was drained, when there was nothing left in him but exhaustion, silence, and unspoken pain. They walked away when he needed them most, when his eyes begged for understanding, but his mouth said nothing. They left not because he changed, but because he couldn't serve their comfort anymore. They said he was distant, but never wondered why. They blamed his silence, but never cared for the story behind it. And slowly, one by one, they vanished like fog in the morning light, sat in rooms filled with people and felt like a ghost, his presence unnoticed, his absence unbothered. He learned how loud the world could be when no one is really listening. He gave love without condition, support without limits, and loyalty without question. He showed up every time they needed someone, even when his own life was falling apart, even when he was running on fumes. But when he needed someone, when his world started to crumble, there was no one, no hand to hold, no shoulder to lean on, just him and his empty chest echoing with the truth that maybe he was only valuable when he was useful. Maybe love for him had always come with terms he never agreed to. Maybe his worth was only visible when he was giving, not when he was needing. And that realization broke something in him, not loudly, not with screams or shouts, but quietly, like glass cracking under pressure, too subtle for the world to notice. He didn't make announcements. He didn't post about his pain. He didn't beg anyone to stay. He just stopped explaining, stopped reaching, stopped hoping. And in that silence, he began the most important journey of his life. He looked at his reflection and saw a man built from pieces scattered by others, a man who had nothing left to lose, but everything to rebuild. He started small, not because his dreams were small, but because he had learned to respect every step. He started to sleep again, not to escape, but to rest. He started to breathe, not to survive, but to feel. He started showing up for himself like he had for others, and it wasn't pretty, it wasn't poetic, it was painful, it was lonely, but it was honest. And slowly the same silence that once haunted him became his shelter. The same emptiness that once drowned him became his canvas. He started to fill himself not with people, but with purpose, not with approval, but with peace. And it changed him, not into someone new, but into someone real. The world didn't notice at first because they had stopped watching him long ago. But life has a strange way of circling back. The same people who left when he was quiet began to speak again. The same ones who disappeared when he was lost tried to return when he was found. They noticed him again, not because he cried for them, not because he asked them to come back, but because he was full now, full of strength, full of silence, full of unshakable peace. They saw the glow in his eyes, the calm in his voice, the power in his stillness, and suddenly they remembered who he was, or rather who he had become. They tried to reconnect, to revisit the version of him they thought they left behind, but he wasn't that man anymore. He had outgrown the need to be seen, to be understood, to be accepted by those who abandoned him. And though he smiled, he didn't open the door wide this time. Though he listened, he didn't offer pieces of himself this time. He didn't owe them anything, not a conversation, not a closure, not even a second chance. Because the truth is, the people who left when you were empty will never understand the cost of who you became when you were alone. They'll see the success, the calm, the healed version of you, and think you got lucky. They won't see the nights you begged God to take the pain away. They won't see the mornings you didn't want to wake up. They won't feel the screams you silenced, or the tears you wiped with your own hands. They'll return with smiles and sweet words, pretending they never left, but your heart will remember, your soul will know that they weren't there when it counted. And you won't hate them, you won't curse them, because healing taught you grace and silence taught you power. But you'll never forget, you'll never go back, you'll never shrink yourself to fit in their comfort. Again, he'd learned how to live without applause, how to rise without validation, how to grow without witnesses, and that kind of strength cannot be taken back. It cannot be bought or borrowed. It is earned in the fire of solitude, in the ashes of abandonment, and in the silence of being forgotten. He no longer feared being alone, because loneliness had raised him, molded him, and made him unshakable. They left when he was empty, and he thanked them not with words, but with distance, because their absence taught him presence, their silence taught him voice, their betrayal taught him loyalty to himself. And when they came back trying to pick up where things left off, he realized something powerful. Not everyone who misses you deserves you not. Everyone who wants access deserves entry, and not everyone who left you behind deserves to be part of the story you wrote in their absence. He stood taller now, not in pride, but in peace. He didn't carry the need to prove anything he didn't seek. Revenge, he didn't throw their names in the dirt. He didn't expose. What they did, he simply lived better, not louder better. And in doing so, he became the kind of man that silence applauds. A man who learned to fill his own cup, who learned that self-worth doesn't come from others staying, but from you choosing not to break. When they left, he used to think that love meant holding on. Now he knew that sometimes the greatest love you can give is to walk away. And sometimes the greatest strength is not in who stands beside you, but in who you become when you stand alone. And he did. He stood alone, not broken, but built, not bitter, but wiser, and not empty, but full of peace, full of power, full of a life that no one gave him because he created. In himself he left when he was empty and returned when he was full. But this time he didn't need them to stay, because he finally knew how to stay with himself.